Francis Rákóczi II was born in 1676 in Borsi, a small town belonging to Slovakia today. By the time of his birth, anti-Habsburg sentiments have been long established in Hungary. These same negative feelings were the driving force in the lives of his parents. His father, Francis Rákóczi I, was one of the leaders of an unsuccessful Hungarian-Croatian revolt against the Habsburgs in 1670. His mother, Ilona Zrínyi, was the daughter of Péter Zrínyi, who was beheaded in 1671 for being implicated in the same insurrection. Francis Rákóczi I died shortly after Francis's birth. His mother then became the wife of Count Imre Thököly, the leader of anti-Habsburg insurgencies. The young Rákóczi spent his early years in the family estate in Borsi. When he was 9 years old, the family had to move to their castle in Munkács to protect themselves and their wealth from the approaching Habsburg imperial troops. Thököly was a strict stepfather who took Francis on his military campaigns as early as 5 years of age. The young boy was subjected to rigorous military training. He learned fencing and horse riding and got accustomed to living in a tent in summer and in winter alike. In 1685, Thököly was captured and taken away by the Turks. Ilona Zrínyi and her soldiers defended the castle heroically for 3 years against the Habsburg forces. Dismissing heavy cannon fires, she often appeared on the bastions with her 10-year-old son. When finally Ilona Zrínyi surrendered, the members of the family had to leave Hungary and give up their property. Francis was sent to the Jesuit college in Neuhaus in Bohemia and then to the University of Prague. Here he studied natural sciences, mathematics, geometry, and physics. He was also instructed in military engineering, ballistics, and the art of fortification. In 1693, Francis spent a year in Rome. Upon his return to Hungary, he was appointed government commissioner of Sáros County. He married Princess Sarolta Amália of Hesse. As soon as he took up office in Sáros County, the anti-Habsburg Kuruc rebels in hiding solicited him to lead their movement. He first refused, but soon was writing letters to King Louis XIV of France, asking for help. However, his written pleas never reached the French court. His confidant, an officer in the imperial army, Longueval, betrayed him and the letters ended in the hands of the Austrian court. Rákóczi was arrested and imprisoned in the fortress of Wiener Neustadt in the south of Vienna. During the hearings, it became clear that the only possible outcome was a death sentence. Rákóczi escaped with the help of his wife and brother-in-law and fled to Poland. Here he continued his diplomatic efforts to obtain the alliance of France. The optimal moment for the uprising came in 1703, when the Habsburgs withdrew most of their troops from Hungary during the War of the Spanish Succession. Rákóczi took the lead of the Kuruc movement. The troops were made up of serfs and the former Tököli refugees who had remained in hiding in the mountains. Rákóczi summarized the goals of the uprising in a manifesto. In it, two options were outlined. The first, the dethronement of the Habsburg dynasty, the restoration of the Hungarian monarchy, and the election of a new king, as well as the independence of Transylvania. If this was not possible, then the Habsburg ruler must restore the old rights of the Kingdom of Hungary, remedy the age-old grievances, and recognize the independent principality of Transylvania. Rákóczi's War of Independence broke out in 1703 and was waged in an indecisive fashion for 8 years. The Kuruc rebels had their greatest successes at the time when the imperial court was in a crisis due to its implication in the wars in Western Europe, namely the War of the Spanish Succession. This was the case in the early stages of the war, when the insurgents reached and even occupied most of the Danube region and soon raided the area around Vienna. In 1704, however, the Anglo-Austrian troops won a decisive victory over the French at Höchstadt, and this had a major impact on the uprising. Rákóczi could no longer expect direct support from the French. Peace negotiations started. Rákóczi was elected Prince of Transylvania in 1704 and, in 1705, Supreme Prince. In 1707, the Habsburgs were dethroned at the Diet of Onod. However, further negotiations halted when Vienna did not recognize the independence of Transylvania. In 1707, Rákóczi signed an agreement with the Russian Tsar Peter the Great in Warsaw, but the practical effects of the agreement could not be implemented. Rákóczi's political plans came to nothing, and, without foreign support, the Kuruc troops suffered significant defeats from 1708. In the last stage of the war, it was no longer possible to maintain national unity. Under the burden of war, the country became impoverished, and to make matters worse, the plague broke out in 1710. Fighting became less frequent, and Rákóczi withdrew his troops to the starting point in Munkács. In February 1711, Rákóczi went back once again to Poland in the hope of meeting Peter I. He entrusted Sándor Károly to continue the negotiations with the imperial general János Pálffy. In April 1711, at the Diet of Szatmár, Károly accepted the peace terms offered by the Habsburgs. The Kuruc armies laid down their arms on the plains of Majtény near Bratislava. Rákóczi never acknowledged the peace agreement and called Károly a traitor. According to the terms of the agreement, he was to be granted impunity if he took an oath of loyalty to the Habsburgs within 3 weeks. Rákóczi was not willing to do so, preferring voluntary exile. He stayed in Poland trying to get assistance from different powers. But no help was granted, neither from France nor from the Turks. In 1717, Rákóczi transferred to Rodosto in Turkey with a handful of loyal followers. He died here in 1735. Despite ultimately being unsuccessful in his goal to establish an independent Hungary, Rákóczi remains a revered figure in Hungarian history and one of the most significant leaders of the anti-Habsburg movement.